So here's the thing. I always know what's happening at the Supreme Court is awful until I read your piece and realize that it is several layers more awful than I thought that it was, because you are such a aficionado of this sort of thing. So this is obviously very bad news. The U.S. Supreme Court revealed they will hear oral arguments in the major abortion case on December 1st, kicking off a process that could ultimately cut off abortion access in dozens of states. The case out of Mississippi, Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health Organization, is a direct challenge to Roe v. Wade. It concerns a ban on nearly all abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy and the question of whether all pre-viability prohibitions on elective abortions are unconstitutional. It is expected that at least 24 states would then immediately ban access to the procedure altogether. So, okay. But as your piece basically said, the Supreme Court brief gives away the whole conservative game on abortion. Explain that, what it means, because
there's the guy who designed the Texas law is this wingnut lawyer from Texas named Mitchell. And if you read his amicus brief to the Dobbs case, he gives the game away in that the target has really never been Roe. Roe was the low-hanging fruit. The target is Griswold. The target is the fact that the conservatives do not believe there is a right to privacy inherent in the Constitution. And in this amicus brief, which I urge everybody to read, Mitchell makes it plain. He says that they should issue a ruling that leaves Obergefell and Lawrence, which are the two major gay rights decisions, quote unquote, hanging by a thread. That's what they're after. They're not. I mean that will make a lot of their Christian base really happy. But the privacy right is the real target, and that's what we have to be aware of.
Well, you said anyway. People generally.
Frankly, I don't think the Democrats are.
You said people generally like privacy, and they generally like the things they do in private, especially as regards sexy time. So directly attacking Griswold was rightly deemed to be a political loser. But as you say, this goes to more than just that, right? Where is this part? It chilled my homo heart, Chody. You said this is stuck. You're talking about Griswold versus Connecticut is stuck in the conservative craw ever since it was applied to birth control, abortion, gay rights, and a number of other things that make the conservative id feel all icky. So it basically says there is no specific right to privacy at all in the Constitution.
Exactly, and that has been a very popular theory within conservative legal circles forever. I mean, Roe gave them a foothold. And the steady, whittling back and quite honestly, the mushiness of many Democrats on the issue gave them the opening that they have now.
Well,
and I don't trust. I think John Roberts could very well dissent from that Mississippi case, and it would still, it would still go through 5-4.
Yeah.
I think he's going to find himself on the losing end of a lot of 5-4 decisions, unless he acts like the Amy Coney Barrett's and Justice Drunky John, go along with that.
Rapey McPerjury. Okay. You said it's hard to believe the court would engage in a sweeping evisceration of privacy rights, but it's not as hard to believe it as it was even 5 years ago. So that is chilling. And you talked about, you wondered why suddenly you said we're in the middle of a very strange We Are Not Hacks Over America tour that has featured both Amy Coney Barrett and Clarence Thomas protesting far too much about what a clear and objective institution the Supreme Court is. So it's just, you're like, why are at a Mitch McConnell event introduced by Mitch McConnell at the Mitch McConnell Center, right?
Yeah. Those two speeches were political speeches, which justices of the Supreme Court are not supposed to give. But they were clearly political speeches. They clearly had the political purpose of camouflaging what the conservative majority of the court is up to.
Yeah.
That's another thing that shouldn't happen.
And it's interesting, on the other side, we have, doctors and pastors speaking out, which I think is significant. This lawsuit, the doctor in Texas that stepped forward and said, I gave an abortion. He said,
have you seen the latest on that?
Yeah. Well,
the guy who turned him in?
Well, I was just going to say, so the lawsuit that could test the constitutionality of the nation's most restrictive abortion ban was filed in Texas Monday against a doctor who admitted performing an abortion considered illegal under the new law. It was filed by a physician in San Antonio who is not in jail, but he is a convicted he is a convicted felon in Arkansas, right?
And he's also admitted he only did it for the money.
Yes, he is a convicted. He's actually on. He's currently serving his 15-year federal sentence on home confinement. And he said, if the state of Texas decided it's going to give $10,000 bounty, why shouldn't I get that $10,000? He is right.
I mean, his self-interest is so obvious. I almost admire him.
Right. He was convicted of tax fraud in 2010.
Oh, even better.
So he was.
So he
is
the
a
money.
felon from Arkansas that has filed a lawsuit against.
Well, he needs the cash.
Good God. But, also, I thought this pastor was so interesting, Charlie, a Baptist pastor from a southern city in a conservative red state. He says, I do know firsthand who suffers when politicians attempt to limit every person to determine whether, when, and how to become parents. I also know how vital it is for people of faith to speak up in these religious spaces and show how strongly we disagree with government officials who would play politics with the health and well-being of people from our communities. I mean, everybody keeps saying it, but they are the dog that's caught the car, right? I mean,
well, we'll see. I mean, I keep hearing that, and I agree with them, and I think it's probably a political disaster if they go all the way through with it.
Charlie,
but I don't know anymore.
One of the main things
the country's tolerance for craziness is far wider and deeper than even I thought it was.
Charlie, one of the main, you saw this, Jody, in the polling out here in the recall. One of the main things people mentioned is we didn't want to become Texas.
Yep.
They mentioned specifically the Texas law
Yeah.
as what motivated people to get out and vote in California.
Yeah, but I mean, is it going to work in Nebraska, Kansas, or Illinois?
A lot of women are pissed.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I hope they are.
We didn't throw out our pussy hats. We got them. We still have them.
I hope they.
There's a march on October 2nd.
I hope they put it into action.
Yeah.
Because the only thing you can really do if the Supreme Court is hell bent on doing what we think it's hell bent on doing is vote out the people who confirm these judges.
Yeah.
And you can't do anything. You can't do anything about the judges. They're there.
Right.
I mean, you can expand the court, and
if the FBI does a real investigation of rapey McPerjury, I'm just saying.
Well, there's also that too, but in terms of what we can do, in our politics, it's to vote out the politicians who enabled them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's
Charlie,
what we can do.
Curious as a fantastic journalist yourself, we've been talking about the Bob Woodward, Robert Costa book, and I keep saying they have to call it now a warning, but this would have been important to know during the impeachment. I mean, it just.
I said that. Yeah. I posted that on the very first blog post I did on that book. Number one, I went through the allegations, which are astonishing.
Yeah.
But the very first thing I said was, where the hell were you guys?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it's more important for us to know what you know than it is for you to make money on a book.
And they still would have made money on the book.
That's the way I've always looked at the business. You find the information, you confirm the information, and then you relate the information.
Right. I mean, they're like, holy cow, this is a national security crisis. I mean, Charlie, this is a coup that they needed to say something.
The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is conducting a mild coup d'etat himself to make sure Crazy Man doesn't launch a bomb at Iran.
Yeah.
That would have been nice to know at the time.
Yeah, I heard Woodward say last night that you're going to be apologizing to General Milley when this whole everything comes out that he saved us from. But I mean, the fact that nobody said anything at the time and during the impeachment trial in particular. I mean, Charlie, it's. What happens? This does not happen in other countries when there's an attempted coup. They don't just go, oh well. I mean, this has got to be punished, doesn't it?
Listen. I've thought so from day one. I thought he should have been impeached I thought he should have been impeached in impeachment 1, but I think he certainly should have been impeached in impeachment 2. It's become clearer by the day. This memo, this 6-point memo, it shouldn't be that easy to overthrow the government.
Yeah.
But there's an evil logic to that memo that shows you. I mean, that's the game plan.
Yep.
Yeah.
If this was a dress rehearsal, that's the game plan.
Yeah.
Because, and the idea that Mike Pence had to agonize over this decision.
Yeah.
You talk about something that will guarantee him that he gets no votes
Yes.
the Republican
What
primary.
a spineless, cowardly weasel from both sides, right? I mean, just tried everything he could to try and do
to
this.
call Dan Quayle, who's minding his own business out in the 18th hole and Arizona, and getting ready to have a couple at the 19th hole, and he can, Dan Quayle, who's by the way over 70 now.
Is
Yeah.
it
hard to
really?
believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that in one of the stories, and I was like, wow, Dan Quayle's like 73 now.
It makes
Yeah.
sense, though.
But he's out there and he's having a grand old time, and all of a sudden, his idiot successor calls him up and says, "Hey, and Dan Quayle has to say, fuck up, Sparky. This is."
He said,
And speaking on behalf of all the vice presidents of the United States, this is the only move you have.
Yeah. It really is astounding.
Al Gore had to certify George W. Bush's election.
Yeah.
Think about that.
I know. I mean,
And it was Al Gore who had to gavel down all the members of the House who came over and challenged it.
Yeah.
Because
By the way,
they didn't have the Senate to back him up.
even for him, wasn't the latest statement from the office of the vice president? Wasn't it particularly? Okay. Well, we don't have to do it, but.
What was that?
Okay, wasn't it particularly screechy? Like, I'm going, is it this Weisselberg thing finally? Like, what? Oh my God, it was very screechy, his latest statement. I don't know if it's the Woodward book or the Weisselberg investigation getting closer.
The walls are closing in.
Exactly.
I was like, what? It didn't even make sense.
They're in the trash compactor in the Death Star.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and it's starting to.
And that little wormy thing's
With
coming
With
up.
the rest of the garbage.
Exactly.
All right, well, DOJ's got to,
Well,
chop,
who's gonna-
chop.
who's gonna
Chop.
portray what? I'm sorry. What?
I said the DOJ's got to stop here. This is federal. This is, don't you think? Who else prosecutes this coup? It's got to be the DOJ, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know what George is doing, but that's only one prong of this coup.
Yeah, I presume the Georgia prosecution and the investigation is still going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of events relating to January 6th, those are all federal crimes.
Yeah.
I'm not wired enough to know what's really going on, but it sure seems like nothing's going on.